Welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Internal, External, Calming the Chaos Within. No other than Mr. Cole Grace. Welcome again, Mr. Cole, and Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, my name's Cole Grace. I'm 42 years old. I live in Costa Rica right now, but before I was born in Houston, Texas, in the United States. Um, but I lived in Michigan most of my life. I'm a military veteran, disabled combat veteran. My job used to be route clearance, where we would look for roadside bombs and then dispose of them, get rid of them. So I developed PTSD during that time, and had a healing journey since I came home from that in 2006, and have been searching for ways, practical ways to better my quality of life and my mental health. And in doing so, I wrote this book, Internal is Greater Than External, Calming the Chaos Within, to detail my journey and some of the practical tools that I've used to um, rewire my brain, basically.
Mr. Cole Grace, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. And today, let's talk about your debut book. Your title presents a clear hierarchy: internal and external. Why is it mastering the internal world not just a good idea, but a fundamental or a foundational skill for navigating chaos of the external world?
Right, and that's where I think society tricks us into believing that you're going to achieve happiness by some external fulfillment, by getting a better job, by making more money, by getting the car you want to drive or the house. And we often, in doing that, ignore the internal, and we distract ourselves with that external things. And when we get those external things, they're temporary, or we self sabotage and we never get those external things because our internal world is messed up. And what I'm proposing is that if you work on your internal world, like things that you can control, like thoughts, feelings, beliefs, reactions, and things like that, that your external world it'll be a lot easier to navigate, and you'll enjoy it a lot more when you're internally grounded.
Mr. Cole, we often blame our stress on a chaotic world, news cycles, work demands, and social media. How does your book argue that the true chaos is not out there, but how we process it in here?
So it goes into some neuroscience things, but your brain has what's called a reticular activating system. And a lot of the things that happen are subconscious. And so there's so much information available that your brain can only handle a certain amount of it. And so it filters it through this thing called a reticular activating system. And your reticular activating system gets primed and trained to look for certain things. So if you have like a negative mindset and you have a negative belief, your brain, your filter is going to look to prove that belief right. And so managing your thoughts and beliefs, you can retrain that filter to look for gratitude, to look for positive things. It's very similar to if you're ever thinking about getting a car and you have a certain style car that you're looking at or a certain color, and then all of a sudden you notice that car consistently on the road. And it's not that there's more of that car driving on the road. It's just that your filter, your reticular activating system is primed to look for that. And so what you focus on is what you will see. And so if you focus on positive things, you will see more positive things.
The book likely challenges our desire to control external events, Mr. Cole. How does surrendering the need to control the uncontrollable actually become the first step toward genuine internal calm?
Really good questions. And so there's a different book that's the Seven Habits of Highly Successful People. And he talks about this concept of there being a circle of influence and a circle of concern. Your circle of influence is things that you can control, like your attitude, your reactions, um, the things like that, the time between when something happens and you react. That's something that the time that you own. Whereas your circle of concern is politics, social media, some of the things in the external world that we were just talking about. That's your circle of concern that you can't really influence or control. Now, the more time that you spend in your circle of concern, the bigger your circle of concern is going to grow. And conversely, though, the more time you spend in your circle of influence, the bigger your circle of influence is going to grow. And so that's the whole point of the book, is to flip that, to look in your circle of influence, your internal world, and to work in that, and that will grow your influence and actually give you more influence in your external world. You'll never have full control, but the more control you have over yourself, the more influence you'll have over your external world.
On the nature and internal chaos, Mr. Cole, what are the core components of these internal chaos? Is it primarily our bracing thoughts, our unchecked emotions, or a bodily stress responses, or a combination of all three?
It's a combination of all three. And it took me a long time to come to that realization because I had combat trauma. And that was very easy for me to say, okay, I have trauma from combat. But then when I went to talk to a counselor and they wanted to talk about childhood trauma, I cussed them out. I was like, why are you trying to talk to me about childhood trauma when I just got back from war? That's what's bothering me, not my childhood. But I found that a lot of these beliefs that you develop in your core developmental years, 0 to 5, depending on how you were raised and how your life was at that time, you can develop um, these personality, these beliefs that lie in your subconscious, and they drive a lot of your behavior as an adult. And you get triggered and you fall back into feeling like abandoned, maybe if your parents were divorced, or I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. And these are some things that you can subconsciously believe, and you'll self-sabotage and block. Because another thing about your brain is it likes to be right. So if you have a belief that I'm not worthy, anytime you're in a situation where you could be worthy of something, you're either going to self-sabotage it, or if you do achieve it, you're not going to really enjoy it because you're not going to feel worthy of it. And so I think a lot of these subconscious beliefs and traumas that happen as a it's coping mechanisms that worked for whatever was happening at that time, but we continue them on subconscious programs into adulthood. And 95 to 97% of the things that you do and the thoughts that you have, they're subconscious. And so only a small percentage of the things that you do are conscious. And so going into the subconscious mind with like gratitude, positive affirmations, and intentionality is a good way to um, rewire that subconscious brain.
Mr. Cole, how does an uncalm internal state actually amplify and distort external problems, making mountains out of molehills?
Again, like when you focus on certain things, you get your filter provides you proof of what you're looking for. So if you have a belief that you have bad luck, or that bad things always happen to you, then it's almost like you're almost happy when bad things are happening to you because you're right. You're like, oh, see, there's more proof that my life sucks or that I have this bad luck. And so you can go down that negative spiral where you continue to feed yourself more and more negative, and then you continue to see more and more negative. And it really amplifies a problem.
Do we sometimes become attached to our internal chaos, or does it become a familiar, almost comfortable part of our identity that we are reluctant to release, Mr. Cole?
Yes, I do believe that it does become something we're reluctant to release, but I believe that's because it's subconscious. And I believe our nervous system gets used to certain things and comfortable in certain situations. And so it might not be the best situation, but like you said, it's a chaotic situation, and that's what I'm used to. That's what I'm comfortable with. And so when I'm in that situation, I actually feel more relaxed than when I'm in a situation that should be relaxing, that doesn't feel comfortable to me. And so um, it can be very difficult to let go of these patterns because they were developed a lot of times around life or death situations, or like I said, coping through some sort of trauma. And so for me, I have some of these chaotic things in my life that came from Iraq, and I'm reluctant to let them go because it's a sense of safety and comfortability that I have with that. Even though I don't need it anymore, and it actually serves me in a negative way now, I still hold on to it just because of the subconscious nature behind it, that it once saved my life.
Mr. Cole, when someone is in the midst of a full blown internal storm, a panic attack, a rage spiral, or despair loop, what is the very first concrete step you recommend to begin calming the nervous system?
Breathing, breath work. So I recommend that you try to do this before you get into that situation, that you practice it. And so what I like to try to do is box breathing. It's where you breathe, inhale for 4 seconds through your nose, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale for 4 seconds out your mouth, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you repeat. And practicing that when you're not having the panic attack so that you can do that 10 times. Um, and then when you do have a panic attack, you can actually employ it. If you wait until you have a panic attack to try to do it, you're going to get like one or two breaths and you're going to be like, I can't do this. I've done it before. I've tried to do
Mm.
these tactics when I'm in the midst of it. And if you've never practiced it, it'd be like going and playing a game without ever practicing. You need to practice it, and then when you get into the game situation, it'll come natural to you. So, breathing for sure brings you grounded. It's slow. It brings your nervous system out of the fight or flight and into the parasympathetic instead of the sympathetic, or whatever one that is. It brings you into the calming um, nervous system within minutes just by focusing on your breath and being present.
Mr. Cole, aside from breath work, what is the single most important mental refrain or perspective shift that can instantly lower the volume of internal chaos when facing a difficult external situation?
I like to have positive affirmations around areas that I have negative self-talk and that consistently, like, one of the ones I used to have road rage, and I found out I had road rage because I would feel unsafe. I'd feel like I was back in Iraq. So a positive affirmation when I would have that situation happen would be, you're safe, you're not in Iraq anymore. And so something like that, having the answer to the question or to the reason why you're having the freak out. And so being able to have a positive affirmation when you're triggered and you feel abandoned, that I am lovable, or I am worthy, I'm confident. Having those in your pocket for when you don't feel confident, for when you don't feel worthy, and you get those negative feelings, that you can turn around and give it a truth, and maybe even have an example of it. And that's how I work on reversing those negative self-talk and negative thoughts so that I can have more self-love and self-confidence, which I think is the key to authenticity and being able to love yourself and to get through some of this stuff.
Love yourself for sure. And Mr. Cole, the anchor in the storm, what does it mean to create an internal anchor? And how can someone cultivate one that they can access in the moments of high stress?
That's a great question too. Yeah, the anchor in the storm is that internal work, that self-confidence, that self-love, and those are some things that can't be taken away from you, like money, status, and those things can be erased in no time. But you can't erase the way that I feel about myself, no matter what you do to me. And so if I build that up, if I build up resilience, I build up self-confidence that no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to, I have the competence to figure it out. And I've been in situations before that I've made it out of, and I've overcome so much that um, having that in my mind with the gratitude that I do, the positive affirmations, when I do go through it, doesn't mean I don't go through storms. I still do, trust me. But when I do go through those storms, it's not as much of a roller coaster ride, and I don't get as far down into the depression for as long as I used to. And so when the storms come, having that internal anchor of, you know what, I know that I didn't do anything on purpose, like I'm doing the right thing. Um, this is happening, it's temporary, I'm going to get through it, and having the confidence that you'll figure it out really helps to anchor through the storms and make it to where it doesn't matter how your external world is, you're still able to have like a, even you've seen people maybe in bad situations that still have joy, and it's like how are you doing that? And that's having that really strong internal anchor, that internal foundation that allows you to understand that life's not always perfect, but that you're going to bounce back.
Mr. Cole, what will be your short term and long term goals as a debut author?
Short-term goals are to continue talking about these processes and normalizing the conversation around mental health. One of my long-term goals is really hard to put all these practices into work because you end up having like a journal over here and a calendar over here and a goal checklist over here and a mission statement on a different Word document or something. It's all disjointed and it's very difficult to manage, especially if you're having mental health issues. It takes a lot of discipline. So I want to kind of streamline all of that and put it into one place to where it's easily accessible, all the tools in my book. And so I'm working on creating an application for people to be able to have templates and things for what I recommend doing. So that's my goals right now.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Cole, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
Your story is important, and you're the biggest obstacle to writing and producing your book is going to be your internal critic. The external world is not going to stop you from writing the book. I almost didn't write it because of how mean I was to myself and the things that I said, like, you're not a psychologist and you're not a scientist or anything like that. What are you doing writing about mental health or about brain science and how to change your mental health? But I have a lot of experience with it. And so with my negative mindset though, um, that was the most difficult part, was overcoming myself.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Cole. And can you please recommend a book or books that influenced you, Johnny?
Yeah, the seven habits of highly successful people. And then there's another book called Unfuck Yourself. And then there's another one called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow by Dr. Kinnaman.
Thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Cole. And let's talk about the ripple effect. When an individual truly calms the internal world, what is the tangible ripple effect on their external environment, their family, their team, their community?
When you have the internal world under control and you're going to be more authentic, you're going to have more self confidence, and it's going to improve all of your relationships. You're going to be able to communicate better because you're going to have the confidence to say what you really feel instead of hiding it. And it really improves business, it improves family, it improves relationships across the board, whether that be romantic or friendship, personal. It attracts people will ask you like what's going, how are you doing, what are you doing differently. They'll notice a change, and you'll likely be asked um, what's different or what's happened. And so you'll definitely notice also um, a lot less pressure, because I think when I was worried about the external world, I was more focused on self thinking everybody thought about me and worried about what everybody else thought. And with this, I'm validated by myself. So I don't really care what everybody else thinks, and it's so much less pressure, and I get better results across the board.
Mr. Cole, in what ways does a calm internal state become a strategic advantage in leadership, creativity, and problem solving?
It's everything in problem solving and leadership, being able to maintain your calm and being able to be centered and not have emotional reactions while you're trying to make decisions. And the people who are under you will notice 100% if you freak out under pressure or if you're able to remain calm under pressure. And just by you being able to remain calm, you can calm down the whole room. You can, you know what I mean? Like there's been times where I've been in combat situations and people look at me, and if I'm freaking out, they're freaking out. But if I'm calm, then they feed off my energy in that way. And so you can really use it as a strategic advantage because you become the anchor in the storm for other people, not just yourself. And you become the person that people rely on when it's or people look to for what are we going to do, and they trust you. So when people trust your leadership under pressure, then they're not going to question you. They're going to, things are going to run smoothly, and it's so much better for problem solving too because you're able to. My favorite quote is, "Don't freak out, figure it out." So you don't freak out, you start figuring it out immediately. And so while everybody else is worrying about, oh my God, this just happened, what are we going to do? This, oh my, thinking worst case scenario and of all the things that could happen, you're going to be thinking about what's the next thing I can do that's going to improve my situation. And you're not going to have all these um, high emotional reactions clouding your vision.
Mr. Cole, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 is second season, and my baby podcast Bible verses 101. Food 101 in fourth season, or my fifth season, and my Geography 101 is in fourth season, and my baby podcast as well, Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in fourth season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Cole, ultimately, if you could leave us with the practice, one thought, or one belief to carry forward from your book, what would it be?
Neuroplasticity. So your brain learns. You can train your brain. It's like a muscle. And the more you work on something, the more you develop these neural pathways. So practicing something like writing down 3 things that you're grateful for every night before you go to bed from your day and keeping that gratitude journal is something that I really like to do. And when I have really bad times, and sometimes I have, I'm a disabled veteran, so I have issues, and sometimes I have these episodes where I have suicidal ideations because the pain is so bad. And in those moments, what's helped me is to be able to pull back out my gratitude journal, read through some of the recent things that I've written down, and be able to break that cycle of, okay, it's not permanent, and I'm going to get out of this, and I do have something to live for, and my life's not that bad. So I would say a gratitude practice, it helps retrain your brain to look for positive things, and it takes advantage of neuroplasticity, and can be really advantageous.
Mr. Cole Grace, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your debut book?
Yes, if you just go to Amazon and search Cole Grace, then the book Internal Greater Than External will come up as the first or second thing. On YouTube, it's at cgrace21, and then also on Instagram at cgrace2180 underscore.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Gold Grace because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Cole, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel. Have a great time.
Bodycom people, see you soon.